Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. The next 7-star Tera Raid event has just been announced for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. In today's video, we'll go through all the details for when the event's running, as well as some of the best solo builds to help you take down this mightiest marked Pokemon. 7-star KOMMO-O will be coming to the game from the 11th until the 13th of July for its first time out. It will make a return the following week from the 18th until the 20th of July, and as always with the 7-star Tera Raids, it will make an appearance with those 5-star Blissey Tera Raids. Now, all of the pseudo-legendary 7-star Tera Raids that we've had so far have been pretty difficult to take down, and I don't think KOMMO-O is going to be any different from those. It is a Dragon and Fighting type at its base. You know it's going to be a pure Fighting type for this raid, so we're primarily looking at those Psychic, Fairy, and Flying type attackers. They hit for super effective damage coming into this one. It does have access to 3 interesting abilities. I think out of the 3, it's probably more likely to have the 2 base abilities over Overcoat, which is hidden ability. Now, if you do see KOMMO-O have that bulletproof ability, all of these bomb type attacks will not be effective against it. The only ones that I would really say stand out here are going to be primarily Acid Spray. It's used quite consistently against 7-star raids and 6-star raids to lower the special defense on target Pokemon. But in this raid, if we see bulletproof, it will have a complete immunity against that, so we can't go down that route. Don't bring that to the raid if we see bulletproof. And the only other one in the list that would hit for super effective damage is going to be Mist Ball, which is primarily used by Latios and Latias, which are weak to dragon type attacks anyways, so probably not more optimal to bring those into this raid at that stage regardless. If it's got that soundproof ability, of course it will have an immunity to all sound-based attacks. Again, here's a list of all of these sound-based attacks, and really looking through the list, you've only got Alluring Voice, Disarming Voice, and then the Stretch Psychic Noise. But I feel between these Fairy and Psychic type attacks, there are always going to be stronger options to utilize outside of these sound-based ones. I think the ones that you really want to take note of are things like Screech and then Metal Sound, which are used quite commonly in raids to lower those defense stats. The only other one to take note of is that Hyper Voice. I feel that is commonly used on Pokemon like Sylveon with that Pixelate ability, Hyper Voice there. And like all the other pseudo legendaries, it does have that 600 base stat total. Biggest stat distribution is going to be in its defense stat, which might indicate what strategy the KOMMO-O goes forward with in this raid. It does have very good special defense as well, and a good distribution across its attack and special attacking stats. So giving more idea that it could be more of a mixed attacker rather than one or the other, and that's exactly how I feel. I think we're going to see a mixed attacker coming into this raid, so something just to bear in mind, especially when you're EVing the Pokemon that you're bringing into the raid. Now, if we take a look at some of the move options that KOMMO-O has, we'll take a look at the level up ones first. Things that really stand out here that could take advantage of in this raid are going to be things like Screech, Iron Defense, their status moves, along with the Dragon Dance, ways to boost their stats. You know, the Dragon Dance will be able to boost the speed, boost its attack, and then the Iron Defense we all know about can boost that defense even further on the KOMMO-O and can be combined with something like Body Press. It is a fighting type attack to get some really good utility in this raid. Screech can lower our defenses as well to kind of increase the damage output overall, but I would say it's probably more about its signature attacking moves in Clangorous Soul. This is what I almost expect the KOMMO-O to open the raid with, where it gets a boost to all of its stats across the board, the cost of 33% of its health being lost. Then it could use something like maybe Drain Punch to recover some of that health loss back, and be in a good position to go forward in the raid. Clanging Scales is an interesting move as well. It is its signature attack, and I'd say between Clanging Scales and the Clangorous Soul, it's probably going to have those 2 staples on this set. Clanging Scales does have a little bit of a drawback though. Every time it does use it, its defense does drop by -1, so that's something that you could look at and maybe take advantage of in this raid. But also at the same time, on the other side of the coin, it could be a reason why we see Iron Defense to get around those drops that it's constantly taking from the Clangorous Soul in battle. So something just to keep in mind. Close Combat's its strongest physical fighting type attack that it gets, so maybe expect that if we don't see Body Press. And Boom Burst's an interesting option as well, which can hit for very big damage, 140 base attack. So if we saw something like Clangorous Soul and then Boom Burst, that could be at our own detriment, and at that stage I think we want to start looking at our own soundproof ability Pokemon to bring to this raid, because they would have an immunity from Clanging Scales, from Boom Burst as well, then you'd only have to worry about the other options that it's got. But of course, until the raid goes live, we don't know those options. One of the biggest strengths about KOMMO-O is actually the move, how deep its move pool is, and all of the different coverage that it does get. You can see that it's got more fighting type attacking options, it's got ground coverage, it's got rock coverage. The only thing it really lacks is dog coverage, which gives me more reason to bring psychic types to this raid over maybe fairy and flying that can be hit with some of the other options that KOMMO-O has access to. I think if we go down this list a little bit further though, we can see some of those more threatening attacking options. Drain Punch being one of them, we've already mentioned that. That can be combined quite well with the Clangorous Soul. Dragon Claw we've talked about from its move learn set. And then Poison Jab is an interesting one because it can hit fairy types for super effective damage, so don't discount that if you're looking at fairy types into this raid, because they will be taking not very effective damage from the fighting type attacks. They're immune to the dragon type attacks and they hit for super effective damage on return, so expect it to have a move to hit fairy types for super effective damage to make life difficult for those Pokemon. Stomping Tantrum's a really nice option for ground coverage there. It's got Rock Slide to cover maybe those flying threats that it has an issue with, and then there is that Body Press. Has got Swords Dance as well, so this is what I mean. The move pool that KOMMO-O has is so deep, so it really has access to a lot of different options. It's going to be really hard to kind of refine what set it will have before the raid event goes live. The other options it has against fairy types are going to be Flash Cannon and Iron Head. I think between those two, I would say I'd lean a little bit more towards Flash Cannon, but there's definitely the possibility that it could have Iron Head as well. And then Aura Sphere is its fighting special type attack that it could have access to. Flamethrower is probably unlikely because if we're looking at hitting steel types, it's got the fighting type attacks anyway, so I would say it's probably unlikely to see Flamethrower, but it is an option there. And then again, Close Combat is probably one of those options that we will see more often than not. And then talking about dog type attacks, Throat Chop is its only real dog type attack that we're likely to see, but I think it's very unlikely that we'll see that, making psychic types probably the more optimal choice coming into this raid when the KOMMO-O goes live later this week. But that's a pretty basic overview of everything that we can expect from KOMMO-O. Some of the things like those abilities, some of the move options that it's got access to, and just a bit of an overview of those base stats, which stat is going to be the better one to attack on. With that said, we'll jump into game now. I'll show you some builds that I've put together in preparation for the raid later this week. So the solo builds that I've got prepared for the KOMMO-O. I'm going to start off with Slowbro, going to be water and psychic type. It hasn't got an immunity to those dragon type attacks that can come out from KOMMO-O, but it does have a resistance to those threatening psychic type attacks, which could be a big advantage for Slowbro in this raid. The held item is the Shell Bell, level 100 and Hyper Train. It's pretty standard Slowbro on all accounts. The moveset of Slack Off, Iron Defense, Nasty Plot, and then Stored Power. And then an EV spread. It's hard to EV at the moment before we know the moveset on the KOMMO-O, but I think just to give us as best chance against a physical and special split, went for 252 in HP and then 252 in special attack with a modest nature here. The Oblivious ability is pretty nice because KOMMO-O does have access to taunt, so we have an immunity as long as we've got that ability intact, so we have a seamless setup. We've got Slack Off there for recovery if we need additional ones. The basic idea is going to be 3 Iron Defenses, 3 Nasty Plots, and then start firing off Stored Powers, which are going to hit for super effective damage, but a very good solid option I think coming into this raid later this week with Slowbro. You can't really go wrong with it. Next up is Clefable. It is going to be a fairy type option. The only things we're going to have to watch out for, we outlined it does get access to Poison Jab and Flash Cannon and Iron Head, so they're things that we have to be a little bit wary of coming in if we're using Clefable, but it does have some merit coming into this raid as well. Held item here is going to be the Fairy Feather. Use the Fairy Plate or even an Expert Belt if you don't have access to those items, just to boost the fairy type attacks on this Pokemon. Again, level 100 and Hyper Train. The moveset here going to be Moonlight, so we've got a line of recovery in the raid when we need it. Then you've got Calm Mind to boost our special attack, special defense, and Cosmic Power to also boost our special defense, but this time alongside that defense stat. Main attacking option here is going to be Draining Kiss, and that's going to be nice to help us recover while attacking in the raid. And the moveset is going to be 252 EVs in special attack, and I've went for defense in this instance. Might be worth just switching those up once we know what the set is later in the week with a modest nature. And the most important thing here is that ability, which is unaware. So if this KOMMO-O, like we expect, is going to be boosting those stats, maybe going for those clangorous souls, maybe the iron defense, maybe even dragon dance or swords dance, then we are going to be able to ignore all of those with that unaware ability, which could make Clefable quite a nice option. It's probably going to be quite consistent coming into this raid, depending if we see flash cannon, iron head, or something like poison jab. Of course, it would give it a few issues, but otherwise I think something to definitely look at coming into this raid. Number 3 this week is going to be Bronzong. It is going to be steel and psychic, so it is going to have a resistance to dragon type attacks. It's going to be hit neutrally by those fighting type attacks until you do terastallize, so just bear that in mind. But it's got very good natural defenses anyway, so you should be able to stand up to whatever the KOMMO-O throws out at us initially. Shell Bell going to be the held item for a line of recovery, level 100, and of course hyper trained with a moveset of metal sound. Just be aware, if we do see soundproof as the ability on the KOMMO-O, this is not going to be an option here, and I would say change that for something else. Maybe go for screen support here. That's going to allow a little bit easier setup in the raid. But if it does have bulletproof, then metal sound could be an option, as long as that shield doesn't go up too early in the raid. Then iron defense is going to be a way for us to boost our defense stat, calm mind as well to boost our special attack and special defense. And then with all those boosts under our belt, we're going to be utilizing stored power a little bit like we do on the Slowbro. It's just an alternative option with some better resistances, I would say, than the Slowbro overall. And it's unlikely that we see flamethrower in this raid anyway. So after you do terastallize, you're in a really good position with those nice defenses. Good way to hit it for super effective damage. And if we do see any ground type attacks as well, like Stomping Tantrum or Earthquake, then Levitate's always going to come in handy there. EV spread just pretty straightforward at the moment. Again, going to be 252 EVs in HP and special attack with a modest nature. So the Bronzong should look like this once it's trained up in game. But I think between these three, that's probably enough if you're just wanting to go in and take down and catch this KOMMO-O and not have to farm it or anything like that this weekend. I think between these three, you're probably going to have nice options there. But of course, if you want to hold off and wait until the event goes live later this week, as always, what we will do is put up the best solo build shortly after the event goes live, so you can guarantee that what build we put up after the event goes up is the one that you can have more reliability with, as we normally do. But that's about it for today's video. If you've enjoyed it, do consider dropping a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with these sorts of videos, and also our solo builds when they go live shortly after the event. Of course, I'm sorry this video is a little bit less edited than usual. I'm a bit late getting this up, being to London today, so came back and I wasn't able to get an update up last night when the event got announced. But here we are. We've got some builds and preparation going into this week. We've had a quick overview of the KOMMO-O, and of course we'll be heading up with that solo build when the event goes live shortly after that on the 11th, and look forward to it. I'm looking forward to the KOMMO-O. Just hope it's not going to be that body press iron defense set. I think that is going to be very tricky if we see that, and some of the options that KOMMO-O has there could make it very scary. Let me know what you think the KOMMO-O is going to be using this weekend when the event goes live. I'd love to hear what builds you expect as well to do well in this one. I'm curious, but I'll look forward to it. Anyway, friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, as always, and I'll see you all in another video very soon. So until then, take care and bye-bye.